Hi guys, welcome to the video. Welcome to Southampton in the UK, and welcome to this beastie here. This is the P180 by FlightFX in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It's obviously going to be the vehicle of choice for today's video. Now I'll highlight that it's in 2020 at the moment because you buy it through the marketplace, and obviously at the moment there's no marketplace as of time of recording in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. But I've no doubt that the guys will in due course transfer this across and update it for the 2020 environment. Sorry, 2024 environment. But having said that, for me, I still find 2020 an excellent sim, particularly as I've downloaded and spent loads of money on stuff, as I'm sure we all have. But anyway, as I say, huge thanks to FlightFX for providing a review copy. It's much appreciated. And obviously, as I say, we're going to have a look at it from the outside, the inside, take it for a flight and see what we think. Now, I always like to have a quick look at the website. The reason being is that it gives you an insight into the developer. I haven't come across FlightFX before. I haven't got any of their products, and I don't really know a lot about them as a company. But if I go up here for products, you can see that they've got a couple of interesting things. So they've got the Honda Jet, the S50 Vision Jet, a couple of bits of scenery. Looking forward to the C750. Now I know about their P180 and I know how good a product it is. Spoiler alert there. I'm looking forward to their C750. I think that's going to be an absolutely cracking aircraft, judging by what they've done with the P180. The P180 is a fantastic aircraft in real life. It's such a fascinating and interesting thing. It's one of those. When you see it in real life, I'm sure it's one of those things that just makes you stop and just watch it. Such a fascinating layout. The forward canards right at the nose of the aircraft, the completely different layout to a standard aircraft. Fascinating. We might have a discussion about those at points because they do come with a couple of really significant advantages relating to stall and aerodynamic efficiencies. But we'll mention that in due course, as I say. So as I say, the product's $25 US, I believe. Unfortunately, because I've got it in my Microsoft Flight Simulator, it doesn't. It says you've owned it. It doesn't give me the price, but I'm sure, having checked on the internet, it's $25 US, which this is a steal for that money, to be honest, given the quality of what they've done. But as I say, web page has an awful lot of information on here. A lot of it is obviously, I hate to say it, but every developer will do this. This is basically advertising. It's informative, but at the end of the day, it's advertising. They're going to tell you all about the stuff that they want you to know. Whereas when we do a review, we also want to look at the bits that they don't want you to know or don't want necessarily to shout about. But as I say, fascinating aircraft. I was really excited to have a chance to have a look at it and to review it. So what we're going to do today is we'll have a look at the outside, the inside, take it for a flight. And the flight is not going to be a highly technical or advanced flight. It's just literally to give us some time in the air to assess the aircraft as a whole, going from Southampton and going up towards Birmingham. As I say, it's not really intended to test the navigation equipment at this time. Having said that, the navigation is Proline Collins Avionics, very commonly used in general aviation in the real world for this sort of aircraft, and a great bit of kit. But anyway, without further ado, let's have a look at the aircraft itself. So obviously, given the layout of the wings and the planform, very different and very unusual. I say unusual, there's quite a few canard aircraft out there. So in general aviation predominantly, so things like the Burt Rutan Long Easy and things like that. You see a lot of fighter jets, obviously, with this sort of layout, so the Eurofighter, that sort of thing. But in civilian aviation, it's quite a rare thing to see an aircraft with this layout. But it's a fascinating layout, and it does have a couple of significant benefits to it. But I digress. To start with, let's have a look at the modelling. It's a really attractive thing to look at. I forget I've got slightly different controls to 2020 to 2024. but given the layout, it's just a fascinating thing to look at. Now the flaps are down one stage by the looks of things, because the flap tracks are showing, and it looks like the flaps are down on these canards as well. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fascinating thing, but I digress. First thing that strikes you is what an amazing shape for an aircraft. I mean, this thing just screams speed and efficiency and performance. Absolutely wicked design of the aircraft. Now, there's a few things we're going to talk about as we go around. The first thing is that I believe most of it's made of composite construction, and therefore you see it's a very smooth surface for the aircraft. Obviously, you can see inside the cockpit there, very nicely done. But that means there's a lot of complex curves for developers when they're developing the add-on. And you can see this area down here where the root of the foreplane is, really nicely done. Very nice piece of modelling. Overlapping panels. And the shaping and the 3D format is really good. The shaping and the 3D modelling is very good. Use of PBR is very good as well. You can see that we've got the nice high sheen that you normally get with a composite aircraft. Yeah, very nice. Very nice indeed. And as you come down, you can see we've got the nose wheel gear here. I noticed an observation I would make is that it's a very substantial set of nose gear for an aircraft of this size. Very substantial indeed. Just coming a bit closer. Wee. It's very nicely modelled, isn't it? A lot of detail. Text around the inside of the wheel rim. Not a lot of straight lining going on. Very nicely modelled indeed. Just coming around this way a little bit, you can see tread is 3D modelled as opposed to just a texture. Very nice indeed. Text remains good and legible as you come up close. Texturing on the oleo and the nose wheel, very nicely done indeed. Looking up into the nose gear bay, very nice. I might have expected a little bit more muck and sort of splatter up here, but you can see a really nice reflection in the high gloss finish of the inside of the gear door there. Very nice. We'll just scoot to have a look at the rear undercarriage as well. Very nicely modelled indeed, that is. Great use of PBR. The scratching and the marks on the oleo look very good. I assume that's either a grease nipple or potentially for a lot of oleos in aircraft are a combination of nitrogen and oil. So it might well be one or the other, I'm not entirely sure. But text close in, really legible, really clear. Modelling, as I say, is very crisp, very nicely done. Complex areas, particularly with regards to cables, etc. Very well done. Texturing, wear and tear on the edge of all the metal parts here. Just very nicely done overall. Obviously you've got all the static elements, static ports, etc. as you come round to the front. And as I say, the 3D modelling is of the curves and areas like this done to a very high standard. Very high standard. There's barely a straight line on this thing, is there? Barely a straight line. But it looks really glorious. Obviously, 2 turboprop engines. Given the layout as pusher props, obviously you've got the engine intake at the front. I don't entirely know what engines they are. Probably PT6s. That's a pretty ubiquitous engine for general aviation as a rule. But obviously fully feathering props. 5-blade. But look at this spinner. Really slender and nice. Beautiful to look at. Tail, couple of strakes on the tail. I'd assume that's in terms of stability. High T-tail, obviously the effects of a high T-tail mean that it's completely out of the propeller slipstream. So at low speed and high power settings you don't get any of the benefits of the slipstream from the engines, the jet wash, or for want of a better way of putting it, going over your tail. So yeah, it's an interesting set of handling characteristics for this. Now, one of the things I'm going to mention, obviously you've got all your usual strakes, etc. So you've got elevators here, obviously, but I'm not sure if these are elevators or flaps. I think they're going to be flaps. I don't see them operating as elevators, but you never know. We can have a look in the air. But yeah, really, really nice. And then obviously you've got your sort of metallic anti-icing down the leading edge of the wing. And then you've got your ailerons and flaps back on the trailing edge of the wing. And as you see, I think it's Fowler flaps, judging by this, but they're extending out and then downwards. So yeah, really nicely done. I've got no complaints about the external model at all. It's very rare that I do end up with an aircraft looking so good from the outside. There's nothing really as pickups. Look how crisp the text is. It's just really, really nicely done. No two ways about it. And the complex 3D modelling coming over things like the engine cowl here, look. It's beautiful. Really, really nice. Oh, spoke too soon. There's a couple of bits of straight lining here, but I'll let them off with that. I'll let them off with that. It's just lovely to look at. Lovely to look at. Right, let's jump inside, and we'll have a look at the inside of the aircraft. So it's quite a fascinating workplace, this. Really nicely modelled. It feels quite tight in terms of space. It doesn't feel like it's a particularly roomy aircraft. But before we go into depth in terms of the cockpit, let's just have a look around here. So obviously there's an executive interior. There's lots of things that you can click on, which is very nice. There's two interiors. There's a brown one and a grey one. Depends on which aircraft you load into. Depends on which you get. Oh, I've not seen that before. You can move seats around. There's the closure for the... Let's get rid of that. Privacy for the loo, which is in there. It's really loads. Everything's been modelled that I can figure out. There's not a lot of stuff that hasn't been modelled. Nice sounds as well. Come through here. The seat moves out as well, so you can change seat positions. Reclined seats. It's just, here's your tables. It's just fantastic. The level of detail they've gone to in here is stunning. I think there's food and stuff in here and cups. Make yourself a coffee. It's just the level of detail they've gone to. I've never seen anything like this as a cabin interior for an aircraft, of any aircraft. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, short of being able to serve a meal, you've got everything here. Oh my God. Everything. Literally, you name it, it's here. Sun blinds. Opening the door. Nice sound effects. Stairs going down as well. Broke it now, haven't I? Oh, here we go. Seats are up. Lovely animations. Great sounds. Green, so we're good to go. It's all locked in. It's just fantastic. Can't call anybody in the mobile, but that's not an issue. Wow, even down here, look. The FS Elite magazine for in-flight. Just gorgeous. The whole thing is... I've never encountered anything quite so detailed as an interior cabin. So much work must have gone into this. It's ridiculous. found something they haven't done. You can't change the light positions. But that is literally it. Oh, got another gadget over here. What's this one? Oh, no, it does come out. The screen does come out. Fantastic animations. Yeah, not a lot more to say really, is there? That's awesome. So yeah, back in the cockpit, and it's a busy place. I've not really flown much with the Pro Collins 21 setup. It's not a flight management system that I'm overly familiar with, but there's a lot in here that looks scary. It's not as scary as it makes out. There's a couple of things that are pretty cool, to be honest. I love the yokes. The design of the yokes are pretty cool. The only thing I've found is that here, on this top left corner, is the mode steer button. Now this button is important because the aircraft's got different steering modes, as it implies. It's got a taxi one, it's got a takeoff one, and it's got basically off. And I can't find a keybind for it. So in order to be able to use it, you have to have the control column in situ, which you can, as per the normal most add-ons these days, you can remove it if you wish, which I'm going to do for the moment just whilst we have a look around the cabin, or the cockpit I should say. So the first thing we're going to do, going to go around and have a look at the 3D modelling, which it's not going to come as any surprise. It's been done to a very high standard. A little bit of straight lining here, but I'm going to be nice because I think they've done such a good job elsewhere that I think this is just a beautiful space that they've done. Everything about it is nicely modelled. Because of the nature of the cockpit, the 3D modelling in terms of depth has been done to a very high standard. You can see here, going close in, text is legible and clear. We've got good texturing around edges of things like screens, controls, etc. Very nice level of depth in terms of 3D modelling. When you come over here and you look at things like the instruments and how far back they are set, yet the glazing is right at the front. Obviously you're getting the PBR glazing effect, very nice. Some reflections or lighting effects as you're moving around when you're on the screens. Reflections here of the control knob going into the screen for the little screen down here. Fuses are not functional that I've found, which is not a massive issue with this aircraft. But legibility of things, I mean, God, I remember going back to days of FSX P3D. You didn't get anything like this legibility in there. You had to go to X-Plane to get instrumentation like this, but yeah, it's great, absolutely great. And again, texturing looks worn, looks torn. Parking brake, it's a bit fuzzy there, but I can survive with that. Looking at the carpets and the modelling as a whole, air vent here, alternate static pressure valve. Yeah, it's just really cool. It's such a cool aircraft. I'm getting carried away with myself here, but I really enjoy this thing. The instrumentation up here, or the up front panel, however you wish to call it, this is very sort of CRJ. Now I did my multi-crew cooperation course in a CRJ 200, and this is pretty similar to that. So it's a pretty common sight in a lot of smaller airliners, but it's fairly straightforward. It's I don't believe it's got VNAV though. That's one of the things that I have. It may have VNAV. I don't know if it has or hasn't, but I haven't been able to get it to work to any great standard. We'll have another go on this flight, see how we get on. But as I say, there's so much here. Pretty much most of it is implemented. It says here he immediately finds a few things that haven't been. This is nothing significant under here, but it's very nice. So let's get this thing started. It's pretty easy to start. There's not too much on it. So first thing we're going to do is apply some ground power. Now, ground power. Come to settings. Don't want that. Stick some GPU on. And you see it starts up initially with this screen and your CWP, exactly the same as it does as if you're going onto battery to start with. So I'll show you, turn that off. If I come down here, turn the battery on, comes up with just these screens. And there's another switch over on the right for the avionics. If you're doing a start from just batteries, you would put that to COM1 only, so you can speak to ATC, get your clearances, etc., without completely draining your batteries down. However, we're going to just pop the GPU on so that we have time unlimited. As I mentioned, the steering modes on this aircraft down to this switch here. I have it auto steering mode just so that I can be lazy and I don't have to faff around with this switch. The reason being is that allows me to get rid of that. There is no keybind that I'm aware of for this, so hence I just accept slightly unrealistic, but that's how I prefer to roll. So in terms of the avionics, we'll have a look at those in a moment, but in terms of the panel, it's pretty straightforward. It's just a fairly unorthodox layout. There's a couple of things that are out of place. So across the top you've got your master switches here. Then down here you've got your fuel panel, then it's your engine / propeller panel. Above all of this you've got your anti-ice and pitot, etc. Then you've got your landing gear, but with your landing lights and taxi light here. So you've got some lights down here and a light up here. I always lose this one. Bleed air systems, you've got two bleed airs, obviously one for left, one for right engines, because it's pressurized aircraft, but you've only got a single hydraulic system, so one would assume that it could be flown relatively straightforward without any hydraulics in. However, I would suggest that potentially that might limit some of your facilities such as gear, and possibly, although you'd have an emergency system to drop the gear, but might turn that off just to be a bit naughty and see what happens. We'll see how we get on. So down here I'm just going to turn the fuel valves open. So these are your low pressure fuel valves, I would have thought. We're going to turn the pumps on, and we're going to turn the ignitions on, and I'm going to actually go this all the way fully up to the avionics to let this stuff start powering up. Actually, I do need to do, I'll stick the position lights on because we're going to be as professional as we can be, said he, knowing full well he's not going to be. So we've got our FMS. It's a pretty basic FMS. It's a Collins, very similar to what was in the CRJ 200 that I did my multi-crew cooperation course in. Very similar setup, quite basic. I don't believe it's fully implemented, is 100% accurate with every function. For example, if I wanted to put let's go to Posinit. If I wanted to put my airport in here, which is EGHI, pop that there, key not active. So it's not fully implemented, but it's good enough for what we're doing. In any case, we're going to put that down into our set position, and then eventually it should pop up here, 5698 00121, which we've got. So from here we can go straight to our flight plan. We're going to pop in our origin, we're going to pop in our destination, which is EGBB, and that's that. We're not going to execute it yet because we need to go to Norrie. So November Oscar Romeo Yankee. Next page, we're then going to go on the Quebec 41, I believe it is. Quebec 41 to Silver. It'll soon tell me if I've got it wrong because it just won't let me put it in. Execute. Departure and arrival. Departures. We're just going off runway. Let's see, we'll go off 02. Execute. Back. Arrival. Going to do an ILS for runway 15, and next page, Silver 1 Bravo. Execute, and that's us pretty much in. So going to the legs page, that's all in. Let's just make sure we haven't got any discontinuities. We do. Pick that up, go to that, execute. So that's all that done. Back the way to the top. perf in it now. And this is literally going to be a case of going through your weights off here. So weight and balance. We're going to have four passengers, 50% fuel. That will do us. That gives our empty weight down here 3402. So coming up here, we're going to go 4345 it's got here for the takeoff. What we've got 4346, as good as makes no difference. We're going up to flight level 170, which it will populate as 17,000 correctly. Execute. Well, it doesn't execute on this one, which is weird. Takeoff, runway 02, runway wind is 0/0. I'm not going to faff around too much with that. Is it going to let me put it in? Key not active. Oh, it's this one here. That's why. That's weird. Oh, it's done it as a tailwind and a wind from the side. Okay. 15 degrees. 1013. Execute now. Next page. Anti-icing off. Mid flaps. Everything else checks out. VR 111. Send that. Sends in progress, and that sends it up to here. Let's get rid of that now. And having got that here, VR 111. So let's talk about the avionics now. We've got something to look at. They're pretty cool, to be honest. They're Collins Pro Line 21s. I can't remember if the CRJ had the same sort of setup, but certain bits of it look very similar. So this layout with your flight management system route up here, pretty cool. Instrumentation for the engines across the top. Your nav stuff here, your multifunction display map here, and most of this is multifunction display as well. So you can see here we've got the terrain on. You can choose your nav mode with this switch down here. Well, you should be able to. It's this one here. Get rid of the stopwatch. So you've got your FMS for your your VOR1 FMS, and you can also choose your nav source here. So FMS, and then you scan through it with this one. Likewise, you can choose if you're having the radar on. For example, down here, your references, you can set all your various references down here should you wish. Page 2, really good system. VOR2, FMS1, it's just such a flexible system. And then terrain down here, we'll put terrain on. You can have terrain, radar, standby. You can have traffic, TA only, and it should be TARA above, below. It's a really, change the format if you wish. I kind of like this format personally. Put the terrain on. It's a really flexible system. I really do like it. Obviously you've got the same on the other side. And then for this panel here, you've got these switches down here. So for example, if I go to status, you can see it puts flaps etc up here, and then you can change things up here if you wish to. It's really cool. Same sort of information goes on. It's brilliant. Love it. So not all of these work, obviously, as you can see. Menu 1, Mem 1 and Mem 2, Mem 3 click, but I don't really know what they're for, if I'm honest. But yeah, really good, really flexible system. In terms of the cockpit, not everything is clickable, but you'll see obviously the important stuff is your standby artificial horizon up there. But yeah, so let's get this thing started now. We've got our stuff in our flight management system. Got our speeds transferred across. Starting it dead easy, so I'm just going to start the right hand engine first. Flick that to start. Beautiful sounds. And you see it's motoring with the blades feathered to start with, which is what I would expect. Oh, hello. Well, that's going to be quite useful actually. So yeah, really, really nice. Very, very nice. Let's get inside. Wrong button, Ricardo. And then if we just put some fuel in. And as the engine spins up, you can see the blades starting to fine out. Gone fully fine now. Sounds are fantastic. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Love it. Right, let's pop the generator on. Now that we've done that, let's get rid of the GPU. Pop this back to a nice pretty map to look at. Navigraph, here we are. And then let's start engine 2. NG's rising. 22, 23, that should be good enough to stick that to there. NG's coming up. ITT's rising. Torque is rising slowly. Just watching for the ITT to max out and then come back down, which it is doing. There we go. Decent start on both engines there. Happy with that. Now stick the left generator on and check the carrot salad. EPU drain. Stall failure. So these are these switches here. So we're going to put the stall and pitot heaters on. All on. Auto feather will leave for the moment and hydraulics. There's only one hydraulic system in this, and I do have a query because most hydraulic systems in aircraft work at 3000 psi, and obviously this goes all the way up to 3000 psi, but when you turn it on it only seems to go to 1000, just over. So I'm not familiar with that, whether that should be that or not, but I'll go with the developers. We'll go with the developers, shall we? And that's pretty much it. I am going to put the full flaps down in a moment. So what we can do is we can watch the flaps doing their funky thing. Because these are flaps here. I thought there might have been elevators to start with, but it would appear they're not, they're flaps. Unless they're flaps and elevators, I don't know. But I would imagine that these are your elevators and these are your flaps. And you've got flaps on the leading, on the foreplanes, the canards, and also single slotted Fowler flaps at the back of the trailing edge of the wing. And the artistry is great for them as well. So yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. But we want the mid setting. You've got a nice little flap indicator up here. I love this as a location flap indicator. Brilliant. Okay, so let's get out of here. Take the brakes off. It should taxi pretty easily on idle. The recommendation is to taxi it around on idle, on ground idle, and only put it to flight idle when you're going to go. But steers very nicely on the ground, very accurate. Quite progressive. It does accelerate quite quickly. in which case I would suggest using reverse thrust / putting it into beta to slow down rather than using your brakes. A little bit bumpy on this scenery. It's Orbex, Southampton. Lovely to steer on the ground. Very agile as well. The sounds are quite immersive. Okay. So, let's have a quick... Whilst I hold it on the toe brakes. Oh, I forgot to mention. You do have sunshades as well. It's all the usual things. Lights don't vary here either. But should you wish to have the sunscreens, they're there and available for you. Just such a nice cabin. Okay, and you see here it's got steer taxi flashing because we're still taxiing in a taxi mode. But I'm just going to make sure that we've got everything we need to go down here, which looks good. That looks good. Bleed air needs to be on. Missed that. There was no warning up there, was there? No bleed air warning. That's an unusual one. But that's all good. Auto feather needs to come on, which is down here somewhere. There we go. And we don't sync the props yet. Landing light. Oh, we didn't even put it on for taxi. Hear that motor itself out. And there we go. So let's get ourselves out of here. You can hear it's trying to run away with itself now. It's a pretty pokey beast, to be honest. Come on there, now round we go. It's a bit like a sports car in many respects. Those sounds are gorgeous. A little bit feisty there. Right, off we go. Let's see how we get on. Let's where's it gone? Heading, sync the heading, straight ahead. And what we need to do now is press these buttons down here for toga, and it will have a horizontal deviation bar to keep us straight. You see it's got TO for toga, alt select ready to go for whatever altitude. In fact, we haven't even set an altitude yet. Let's set ourselves up at let's just go all the way up to 17,000, not 32,000. Got carried away with myself there. So we've got our altitude, we've got TO, absolutely fine. Check the engines are performing as we expected. 111 is going to come up nice and quickly. Gear away. Ah, she flies beautifully. Largely trimmed out to where we want to go. What we'll do here is just turn it onto nav. We'll do flight level change. And follow the magenta lines. This thing's lovely to hand fly. So a pretty uneventful takeoff really. Exactly as we would expect. Navigation seems to be working really nicely. It's following its track that it's supposed to be doing, and we're trying to follow the magenta cross. But this aircraft is beautiful to hand fly. And up we go. And this thing is climbing like nobody's business. Now what I am going to do is I'm just going to increase the speed a little bit. And this is only going to change the setting here of what I want to climb at. The actual control of speed is down to me. And the auto flight system. So as I get to 160 it should pitch me up, which it is doing. Nice. Very nice indeed. So let's pop it onto autopilot. Autopilot is over here. LNAV1, autopilot, flight level change, alt select at 159. That'll do me. And we're going to go Scorchio up in the sky. Doesn't she look beautiful? Absolutely gorgeous. And she's climbing like she's climbing like nobody's business. We can add in a little bit more power. Our torque limits on the ground were quite low. I'm not quite sure why that is, but we've got a little bit more now that we can play with. Yeah, she's going up pretty quick, isn't she? 3,000 feet a minute. It's not going to take us long to get up to 17,000. Okay, so we're up at cruising altitude. We're rip-roaring along. Just going to stick a frequency in for where we're going. So let's just pop this on to sync the heading, pop it onto heading. Then that way we can go to down here. And we don't want VOR2, do we? Let me see, is it down here? Or across here? That's what we want. And then course we want, was it 1? We're actually going in 150, so our course for an ILS DME is 146. Oh, he did go the wrong way, didn't he? And then he just accidentally did that. I went completely the wrong way. I couldn't have gone much further the wrong way, could I? Where are we at? 135, 138, 146. Okay, let's just get that like that. And then all we're going to do now is change our source back to FMS1. Come down here, get rid of data. Where's it gone? Not quite sure what's going on here. Trying to change this back, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. Oh, there we go. So, let's just pop this back on to nav. Recapture our nav route. And off we go to Silver, which is a mere 10 miles away. How groovy is that? Okay, I've just disengaged the autopilot. We're about 25 miles from Birmingham, but what we're going to do is have a look at some of the flight handling characteristics. So in terms of roll, it's very sedate, it's very predictable. Has it got positive stability? Yes, it has. And then in terms of pitch, I'd imagine that when I pull up, pitch drops, speed drops, exactly as we would expect, and it's very stable. It doesn't want to do anything untoward. Unfortunately, my joystick, as a force feedback one, leaves a certain amount of control in, so if I leave it to the right, it will still go to the right, but that's not indicative of the aircraft. What I do want to do though, I'm just going to bring the power right back and see what it's like. Some, and I don't know if it's applicable to all, but some canard aircraft won't stall because the leading lift surfaces of the canards stall before the main wing surfaces, so the nose should drop without the main planes stalling, is my understanding of it. God, it's very slick, it doesn't want to slow down. It's not really a surprise, but it's not losing any control authority yet, but we are still at 170 odd knots. Now it doesn't slow down at all quickly. I've got no power on at all. We've got slight nose up attitude. We're climbing slightly. We're not reducing speed that quickly. Having said that, we've got no flap out. But we're not losing speed quickly, are we? Now, as I say, I'm expecting a significant nose drop as the front canards lose lift, and I should run out of control authority before entering any sort of stall, if it's anything like what I'm aware of for other canard based aircraft. Not entirely convinced by this. Mind you, it looks like it's got a very low stall speed. Saying it's only got a stall speed of, what's that, 76 knots? Now, control is fully back. Still got lateral control, but my stick is fully back, and all we're doing is in fact we're accelerating, but we're certainly not stalling. Picks up speed very quickly in a dive, not a surprise really. Let's see if we can provoke something. This should get the speed off quite quickly. Yeah, it's really placid. Really placid. Let's see what sort of speed she can do downhill. See what happens. Should have some. There's our overspeed alert. Yeah, she's great to hand fly, this thing is. Let's get the range down. Let's get ourselves down and we'll have a go at landing this thing. What's our platform altitude for Birmingham? 2000. Shut that up. Bring ourselves round. This is an aircraft that I feel you could be quite naughty with in terms of its behaviour. It'll let you get away with quite a lot, I think. I think it's quite a joy, to be honest. Absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. Right, we're coming down really quickly. As soon as we get around the turn, we'll be able to slow down to a more manageable speed. Make sure we've got the right pressure setting. Get some speed off. There we go, that's what I'm after. Let's bring her around. Just watching the altitude, 1,000 to go. Bit slow, just flown straight through the glide slope. We're still slightly high as well. This is going to be an awful mashup of an approach. It's going to be horrendous. I can feel it in my bones. Let's see how we get on though. Letting the speed come back a bit nicely. Bit of trim. Localizers coming in. It's not doing a great job of feeding us onto that localizer, is it? The old FMS. Ah. Why is it not on approach? There we go. That's a bit better, isn't it? Put some gear down. Come on, sort yourself out, Richard. Sort yourself out. This is an awful approach. Come on, you're nowhere near the centre line. Sort yourself out, man. Come on, you can do better than this. Two whites, two reds. This is me fighting with my force feedback joystick, by the way. It's going a little bit low. God, I'm permanently drifting right. One white, three reds. Just watch the speed as well. Correcting, but slowly. I'm comfortable with this now. Must have a crosswind from the left with this because it's desperate to crab to the right. This thing just wants to fly. Bit of a thump, but there we are, we're down. Okay, we'll just stop it there. Have a look at the outside. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Right, let's have a little think about through what we've just had a look at. The outside is absolutely glorious. It's really well modelled. 3D modelling is brilliant. Texturing is absolutely fine. There's a couple of bits where I'm a bit confused, like where we would normally expect like the hot rubber or whatever on the inside of the gear bay doors, but that's not a massive issue. It's a private aircraft. They do tend to keep them more clean than, say, an airliner would be. Airliners are horribly dirty things. But yeah, the outside modelling is very nice. There's absolutely no complaints about it at all, really. Inside modelling, again, very, very nice. The sounds are great, the 3D modelling's great, the texturing's great. There's literally very little. The attention to detail in the cabin is just outstanding. Oh, I've got to leave that out, can't find the click spot. It's not 100% clickable. So there are areas where, for example, these switches up here, I don't know what they actually do, to be honest, but not entirely clickable. The Avionics takes a little bit of getting used to in terms of its functionality, but it's pretty similar to a CRJ. If you've flown the CRJ, you'll be quite familiar with this setup. The systems modelling done to a very good standard. I don't really know a great deal about the systems of this aircraft, but they do seem to be very simple in terms of just a couple of bleed airs and hydraulics for your gear, etc. But a very pleasant place to work and operate. And as I say, then once you get to the handling, the flight handling is lovely. It's a very pleasant thing to hand fly. Very stable, very predictable, and I have to say, for $25, I think it's really good. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, don't forget to tick like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.